way you've been setting goals is the reason that you keep quietly putting them off. Results based goals sound logical, but for high achieving women, that pressure gets in the way of success. My name is Elyssa Smith. I'm a trauma informed executive coach. And on today's episode of the Unlock Your Blocks podcast, we're talking about why chasing results can actually block sustainable success. If your motivation spikes and then crashes around outcomes, this episode will explain why and tell you what to do. So let's talk about the hidden cost of outcome fixation. This is when you create a goal for yourself and you keep in mind that what you want is the result. Now, I'm not talking about just knowing your why, right? Okay, like I want to get in better shape because I want to be able to run around with my son, right? That's one of my whys. And I want long life so that I can be with him more. That's a great why. That's not really a results-based thing. A results-based goal is to say, I'm going to finally lose that 20 pounds this year or that 5 pounds this year, or I am going to, whatever it is, be on a certain stage this year. It's not a bad thing to create results-based ideas that help you move in the direction of your goals. However, some goals sound good until we actually name them and start to go after them, and then your system starts to resist. Why is that? Results-based goals keep your nervous system in a fight or flight mode and externally oriented. So it's looking around you outside to know if you're okay. And that's actually something that is super helpful if you need to survive. It's looking for threats on the horizon all the time. But if what it's watching is whether or not we're not okay unless we have this result, how stressful is that? That is a big stressor that'll stay on your nervous system. And your sense of safety is then attached to whether or not you perform well and get the thing that you're going after. So then your worth, your safety, everything is tied in. It's a lot at stake if you don't go and get those results. So when your system is starting to get burned out, when you are done hustling and you need to enter your next era of elevating to your next level without the hustle, your system is going to be really panicked with all of that, but it's not going to have the oomph and the drive that you've always depended on before to get to that next level of success. So your body associates your value with whatever outcome you can produce. Therefore, the process itself isn't inherently valuable. So you have big portions of your life where you're working really hard, but your body doesn't think that it has any value other than it had value if you got the perfect straight A's, or it had value if you performed perfectly at the piano recital and got the ice cream sundae from your parents that was promised if you placed first. Your childhood would have given you proof that says, A, unless you have those results, you do not have value. And B, you're never done, even after you succeed. Because what happens when you reach that goal, straight A's this semester, guess what you have to do next semester? Straight A's again. Otherwise, you don't have value. If you get first in the piano recital this season, guess what has to happen next season? Otherwise, you don't have value. That's how your nervous system interprets it, even if no one ever told you that. You might have had the best childhood in the world. Like I had a great childhood. I'm using real life examples, like straight A's needed to happen on every report card in my mind in order for me to be okay. And yes, there were messages coming from my parents and from people around me where that was the expectation. It was very, very results oriented. But in my little mind, in my sweet little heart, during my elementary and middle school years in particular, if I placed less than first in something, that meant that my value went down internally. So when we have results-based goals, like when I got third at the state spelling bee instead of first, it was a really painful experience. And I'm showing my true colors as a nerd right now. But it was a painful experience because that meant that I must not be perfect. And perfection is the only result that my little nervous system thought was acceptable in order to play the role that I needed to play in my family to get most of my needs met most of the time. So whatever your examples are of why you have this idea that you have to accomplish the results in order to have worth and value and in order to feel safe and good, we have to find a way that works better. Because if you're results oriented, if you're like, okay, I got to make this basketball shot in the game. Okay, that's what I got to do, because then my dad's going to be happy with me and my coach is going to be happy with me, and they're never happy with me, or my dad's never around, and so I want to see that look on his face when I nail this 3-pointer in the game. And the next kid over is just thinking like, man, I love basketball. Which one do you think is going to play better under pressure? The one that just says, I love basketball, of course, right? Because he's not goal oriented, or he is goal oriented, but his goal is to enjoy the game, or her goal is to enjoy the game. Her goal is to really feel good about what she's doing. She's enjoying the process. Now, I don't know any elementary or middle schoolers that think that way, maybe before they get tainted by all of the rest of our adult expectations of them. But really, if we're going through life, because we have to have a result in order to feel like I'm looking maybe at the next person over who's got her business and maybe she's at a higher number of revenue than I am, or she's spoken on more stages than I have. We never arrive because that result is always just beyond the next hustle. So, what works better? We have to shift from outcome based goals to capacity goals. What I mean by this is capacity is what allows the results to repeat without burnout. We have to build our window of tolerance, which is the amount of change that you can have in your approach without throwing yourself into survival mode. So we need to increase our window of tolerance for ease, for peace, for coming from a place of stillness instead of a place of hustle and grind and got to get the results, got to get the results, got to get the results. We don't want to be in a place where we're obsessing over the results because that takes away any capacity for sustainability. We're not going to be able to maintain any sort of success, maintain any sort of lifestyle that's enjoyable and fulfilling, a career or a business that flows. We can't do that when we're constantly focused on the next accomplishment. Now, we can have those accomplishments as goals. Like I wanted a Forbes article and I got a Forbes article. I wanted a TEDx talk and I got a TEDx talk. I wanted to be on TV. So like I had these goals that like if I didn't get the TEDx talk, that I didn't accomplish the goal, right? But what I did instead is I broke it down into little pieces. You create capacity around really focusing in on the smaller bits of it. Not just like, okay, checked off A, now I need to go to B, check off B, and then pretty soon I'm going to get over here to F, which is the real goal. No, it's like, sustainably speaking, how am I going to move from point A to point B and actually go for the goal in a way that serves me the best? So, what we need to focus on and celebrate is the journey. Now, I know that I can hear you collectively rolling your eyes. That it was such a dumb thing. For me, I just thought like that's the cheesiest thing. To focus on the journey, not the destination. But the truth of it is, if we give the amount of honor to each step that we take in the journey, each step that we take that we've broken down from that big results-based goal, if we give the right amount of honor to that, not just the results, then we create a really safe place for our nervous system to explore how we experience getting to our goals. Because if you're results based, are you paying attention to what it does to you or the changes you go through as you're going on the journey? No, you're really just looking at like, did I get the goal? Not yet. Keep working. Did I get the goal? Not yet. Keep working. And it's just draining. It'll burn you out and it'll create a really obligation filled lifestyle. And you'll never truly enjoy all the wonderful things that you've accomplished and all the wonderful journeys you've been through. For me, getting that TEDx talk, that was such a hard journey for me. My TEDx talk was such a hard thing for me to do for many reasons. And one of the biggest ones is that I'm a speaker who enjoys being a little more extemporaneous, but you can't do that for a TED talk. You have to really be on a script. That was challenging for me, even though I'm good at memorizing things, but man, all the different factors that went into that. So what I had to do is I had to celebrate like, hey, I have my first slide of script memorized. That feels really good. Let's do that. And let's really focus on that. And let's really celebrate and hone in on that. And hey, and there were different steps in the journey before I even booked my first my actual TEDx talk. Like I applied several times before I got one. So I had to really celebrate, wow, I found 10 that I'm eligible for. That took hours to find those. Let's celebrate that. So there are ways that you can actually really enjoy your life on the way to those results. And that is what makes it actually sustainable. So what you want to ask yourself when you're looking at your goals is, who do I need to be? And what would I need to do to sustain this effort, not just achieve the result? Who do I need to be and what do I need to do to sustain the effort, not just achieve the result? And then you keep your system regulated as you move. You want to be regulated during the whole process. Now, please don't be a perfectionist with this. I need to temper this for all my perfectionists who are listening, because I am a healing perfectionist, a reformed perfectionist. We can hear this and be like, oh my gosh, I wasn't regulated the whole time. I'm freaking out. No, we're not going for perfection here. We are shooting for being as regulated as possible in this process. And what that means is we're not feeling anxiety. We're not feeling like, nervous habits like are jumping in and we're getting distracted, or it's like something shiny. Let me go do that instead of this thing that I'm supposed to be doing. So you keep your system regulated still from the inside out. And you do that during the process, and you stay focused on the next right little step, not on the results. Yes, you keep your big results in mind. I'm a big fan of like manifesting things with God, but which is like confessing what you want and saying it with your mouth and making your goals your password for your email and stuff like this. I'm a real big fan of saying all the things and keeping your mind focused on the goals. But when your whole effort is just focused on results, that's where you start to lose your momentum. So, keeping your system regulated during the process, focusing on the next right little step instead of the finished product. Focus on the things that are in your control. Can you control, let's put us back on the piano bench again. Can you control how you're going to do on stage the day of the recital? Literally no. I'll be the first to tell you, if you're not aware from firsthand experience, you can practice the daylights out of that piece and you can get to the stage and something weird can happen, man. Somebody sneezes in the audience and your brain all of a sudden blanks out. Like, there are all kinds of things you cannot control about how perfectly you play on stage, okay? But what is in my control about that? Well, I can look at the piece, I can break it down, and I can say, I think it'll take me about 2 weeks to learn this section. I think it'll take me about 3 days to learn this section. I think it'll take me about this long. I'd like to practice 45 minutes a day from now until the recital, with only a few exceptions. And then every day that I practice, I get credit for showing up and for doing that. And that was within my control. And I celebrate that. We celebrate, hey, I just did a 7-day streak of practicing, just like I said I would. Right? So it's in counting the wins that we can actually sustain this development, sustain the direction, sustain the progress. So the process and how you operate have to stay the focus instead of only the outcome. And that helps your system to stop bracing and to start really moving gently and powerfully in the right direction. So the steps to doing this on the regular, you want to really create these measurable interim goals to your results. So you want to track and measure your effort quality instead of the outcome. So did you show up for the piano practice today? You want to focus on how success in the process feels. Did I show up and do the whole 45 minutes today? Okay, yeah, I did. That's really amazing. Was I not able to? No, I just got 10 minutes. That's great though. Good job consistently showing up. Not just the outcomes, how it feels to go through the process. So if you want some help restructuring your goals, if you know that this is hitting you between the eyes, that you have been making results-based goals and you want some help with that, if you're a woman, you can book a 15-minute free chat with me, or you can start helping your nervous system feel really safe right now by downloading my free guide for women, 5 nervous system hacks you can do at your desk. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. And I want to give you the opportunity to connect with me around this. If you want to watch this episode on YouTube and you want to comment there, I can respond back. But definitely book in a session, download the PDF guide, and let me know what's working for you today. Until next time, take such good care of yourself.